What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Grand Torino. Delighted you could join me yet again. Please, as I always do, before we get started, don't forget, press the like button, press the subscription button and the bell, and you'll be reminded of future broadcasts here in the Grand Torino. And with that said, and also in mind, don't forget you can visit us at the Grand Torino website. We've got some news articles and links to the merchandise store, Grand Torino, the World Wide Web, grandtorino.ie. Thank you very much for your continued support over there on them platforms. Today I'm delighted to bring back Mr. John Waters. I'm not going to jump out, John. Delighted to have you back.
Ron.
Thanks for joining me.
Good to see you again.
First of all, I want to say congrats. Delighted to see you back in good form again. Your health.
I'm getting there a bit, you know. I'm kind of probably a bit premature in coming out publicly, but I just felt the necessity to. But I'm a lot better than I was. I got a terrible viral attack last April. Wiped out my hearing on this side, got facial palsy, my eye, my speech, everything was affected, my balance. Really nasty thing, and doctors baffled by it. They know what it is, but they don't know what to do about it. And I've had lots and lots of dips and tests and scans and what you name it, and still going on. And but I think the prognosis seems to be people who suffer from this that I've kind of heard about or spoken to or heard from tell me it takes a long time. It takes best part of a year maybe before you get even halfway right.
I'm sure you're well. I'm sure you're well able for it. I'm particularly delighted to have you back speaking on this platform here as well, because a lot has transpired since you're come back into recovery, and I'm again. I want to commend you for coming back onto this platform again, because I know it's not easy with the kind of pressure that this platform brings as well.
Oh well, I've been watching it all, Rowan, and I mean there's different aspects to the whole thing, but that particular one, I've noticed that, I've seen all this stuff, like the absolute gibberish that has been talking by our corrupt press, it's quite laughable in one way that these guys who won't do their jobs, who are too cowardly and corrupt to do their own jobs, and when you do it then, they invent all kinds of lies in order to discredit you, when all you're doing is doing what they should be doing, which is going out and talking to the people of Ireland about what's going on in their country and trying to help them, to give them a voice so they can engage with really dramatic, radical things that are happening and being imposed on them and actually answer back. It's just mind-boggling, really. And then you see the entire state apparatus, the official Ireland thing, all in comes in behind these creeps calling themselves journalists, like that they take their steer. So you have the Minister for Justice repeating the gibberish that he reads in the Irish Times, and you have judges trotted out to spout the same nonsense without any evidence.
It's difficult to see. I've noticed a lot of journalists, ex-journalists from the Independent, the Times, they've all jumped into to politicians' backgrounds. They're working in their backgrounds as their spin doctors.
Oh yeah, that's been a very common phenomenon right down through the years, where this crossover, which should not happen. It should be impossible. Culturally, it ought to be impossible for any journalist to cross over into a political context such as we have, in a normative kind of political context. In revolutionary circumstances, I could understand it. It happened in Eastern Europe that some of the intellectuals and journalists who were involved in the dissidents ended up, on the government side of necessity. But for it to happen in a situation like we have here, any journalist who crosses over, you got to immediately say that every single word he or she ever wrote or spoke as a journalist is suspect.
Yeah,
can't be trusted. Yeah. And the fact that they can tolerate this and allow it and not draw any attention to it is itself deeply corrupt. But I find it extraordinary that there's an amazing phenomenon that I've seen now, and I'm fascinated but utterly dismayed by it as well, that by sheer repetition, something which isn't true can appear to be true in this context. You can see this with kind of the way they play with words like racism. And they start off accusing somebody of being a racist, and they don't ever quote anything for a long time, and then maybe they'll quote something. They'll have the racism word and the person's name will be out there, bang bang bang, every day without any evidence, and then they'll put out one little thing that the person said, which isn't racism by any objective standard, but which may be critical of somebody, or implicitly critical of a whole phenomenon in which something to do with black people might be implicated, such as the refugee situation. And the strange thing is that nobody then notices that this is not racist.
Mm-hmm.
It passes muster.
Mm-hmm.
And that then affects the whole meaning of the word. So that now we've come to the situation where racism is anything that might in any way annoy, offend or displease a black person.
Let's jump straight into that subject then of the hate speech legislation that the An Garda Síochána are now being schooled in from Drew Harris, enabling legislation. But then this is a precursor with bring into play the consultation progress, where the state listens to itself and advises itself on how it would like to implement its laws to suppress dissenting voices.
Oh, indeed. Well, I mean, I would have a lot of things to say about the concept of hate speech, but I wouldn't ever get involved in a consultation process such as this because it's by definition corrupt.
Should be a referendum at least.
But it's utterly corrupt. It's like the citizens' assembly process, all these processes, which are they're like kind of show trials, like such as the communists ran, in order to achieve their ends. The Drew Harris thing is deeply disquieting for all kinds of reasons. Not least because of his own background. Drew Harris was a member of the Royal Ulster Constabulary, the most discredited police force in Europe, without a shadow of a doubt. An utterly partisan and corrupt police force. And somehow he got the job of leading our police force, without having to explain to anybody, least of all the Irish people, well, how are you going to get around the record that you have left behind you? You were complicit in a deeply, profoundly corrupt police force, and you're now here. How can you tell us that you will not bring the training you got in that police force to our police force as its leader? This question is never asked. Who'd ask it? Well, obviously he wasn't asked at the interview. The Minister for Justice obviously isn't asking it. The press, of course, don't ask anything other than questions of people that they don't like, and they're trying to destroy for reasons that we'll get back into. So we have now, but then there's an interesting thing where a few weeks ago, Drew Harris published something which had something to do with hate speech. It was and it was reported in a very strange way, because it was kind of reported as if it was a new law. Now, I wasn't aware that Drew Harris had been elected to Dáil Éireann and given the sole job of dealing with legislation to do with hate speech or anything like that. I wasn't aware that he had been appointed to that position, or that there was, because I don't think it's possible for that to happen. That a single TD even.
What is the remit of the police commissioner, or indeed the police? To
enforce the law.
To enforce the law.
That's
not
right.
To interpret the law.
Not to make the law.
Not to make the law.
No. Not to mould the law. Mm-hmm. Not even to advise about what the law should be. It's none of his business. Mm-hmm. His job is to enforce the law. The first three words of this, I don't know, is it a guideline or is it a redefinition or something like that? Because we have the 1989 Act, which is to do with, not hate speech, but, prejudice and these things, right? Which, fine, I have no issue with that at all. The Act has worked very well as a safeguard in our system, because it has a specific purpose, which is to deal with genuine prejudice, genuine hatred, which virtually don't exist in Ireland, by the way. There is absolutely no problem.
Never existed before.
No. But the guideline, let's call it the guideline, I don't know, it's like something that was issued to guards. It starts off, any criminal offence. Now just hold those three words, any criminal offence. We'll come back to those three words. Then it goes on that that is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by I think the words are prejudice and hostility. And then it goes on to say that this will be regarded as hate speech. Well, let's go back. An Garda Síochána, the guardians of the peace. Their job is to what? What do we say? To enforce the law. To investigate crime. Any criminal offence. That's all you need. Any criminal offence. That's already their job.
Job's done.
Full stop. Full stop. Go home now, lads.
Gather the evidence, present the facts, and walk away.
An Garda Síochána or its commissioner have nothing further to say on the subject other than that they will investigate any criminal offence. Full stop. Whether that offence is motivated by love or hate is none of their business. That's a matter for the courts to decide on what basis a conviction may be issued or punishment may be imposed. It's nothing to do with the guards, whether it's hate, lust, love or anything else.
Yeah.
But the point is this, they are trying to make not law, they're trying to actually bully the people into changing the way they think and the way they speak. And they're trying to imply that it is possible for the guards to actually... You see, like, it's very... The whole concept of hate speech now, as I was saying, has become so reduced, or magnified rather, reduced in one sense, magnified in another, that it is now, in the minds of most Irish people, you see, there's a kind of a factor.
Yep.
You know?
The recoil.
As soon as you see that something is... If I can say anything to you, Ron, I can insult you, and it isn't hate speech. I can say terrible things about your beard, your face, your shoes, anything I like, and you can do the same to me. But if you're a black person, I have to be so careful. The same things, it seems, can be interpreted as hate speech.
And retrospectively activated, as they do in the States. If you go by your tweets, if you've said something 10 or 15 years ago that complicates this, in fairness of the interpretation of the law,
Like,
will it be retroactively, used against you?
like, I'm ill at the moment. I can't walk properly. I can't hear properly. So I can be bad-tempered sometimes. And if I go down the street sometimes in the morning, I can be, a bit ratty. And if I actually happen to go along and somebody's, come along hard at me, and I can't get out of the way fast enough, and he happens to bang into me, and I kind of turn and snap at that person, watch where you're going. Normally that's perfect. That's no problem. Sorry, or whatever.
Man to man, it isn't.
Yeah. But if that person happens to be black, and I say that, and he can say racist, and he can go down to the barracks and say this
That's
man.
his perception.
That's his perception. This is where we're going. Now, at the heart of that, this is really interesting, because I was talking to Jim O'Doherty recently, and I was making this point that the very people this word racism, it's a kind of a spell word. Roger Scruton calls these spell words, because they're not words to do with information or imparting knowledge or exchanging opinions or anything like that. They're actually casting spells.
Yeah, great.
Because there you can't unstick once that there's a kind of a spray of glue that sticks to you, and it has a certain colour, racist, and you're I'll never get this off, and you won't.
Yeah.
This is how it works. You see, so and what happens then is that people avoid you not because they think you're a racist, but because you've got this glue on your face because it's been thrown at you, and this is where we're going. This is how it works. This is an ideological context. It's nothing to do with justice or law or fairness or truth or good or right or wrong, anything like that. It's an ideological concept which now has been taken up by the Minister for Justice and An Garda Síochána.
And Sinn Féin.
Well, they're another story.
I
Let us come back to Sinn Féin in a little while, because they're a separate case. Really, they're a separate case, and we need to look at those boys very carefully, because it's very interesting. Those guys killed Drew Harris's father, and now they're on the same side. Isn't that interesting?
Very.
Isn't it interesting?
Isn't it?
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Isn't it? Wouldn't you? Those of you of a certain age group would get that one. Usa, sutu.
Isn't it very interesting?
Isn't it interesting?
So let's come back to that, because that's the kind of thing that's happening in our country now and is becoming normative. And it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening, but it is. So, you see, this is the problem, that words now can be used to demonize. This isn't the first time it happened. It happened in the gay marriage. This is where it started. All this started, in my opinion, in terms of what I would call public bullying, to which a blind eye was turned by the state. And that happened in the gay marriage debate. There was thuggery going on in the gay marriage debate on a wholesale basis, and the guards were, didn't see that. Sorry, what? Didn't see anything. Did you see something? No, I saw nothing. I've written about it in my book. I talked about, for example, one episode was about a week before the gay marriage referendum. I had been invited down to a town in the west of Ireland, which is very close to my hometown, to speak in a school, to launch a magazine on behalf of the students, school magazine, and they wanted me to talk about journalism. I said, I'd be delighted to do it. I was doing those things pro bono. I never got paid, never got expenses, never asked for it, refused it, because that's what you do, particularly for kids, like school kids, and who need to know about stuff. And
for a profession that you care very deeply about.
Yeah. On the way down, I got a call, quite a frantic call, from the headmistress of the school, and saying, look, John, I'm very sorry. I've been inundated all days with calls from LGBT callers. And they're threatening that they're going to come and disrupt the meeting if you're allowed to speak. Now she says, I've alerted the guards and they're on standby, but it's up to you if you want to continue. I says, I'll continue. I'm not going to be intimidated by those scum. I'll be there. And I did do. Now they didn't show up because they have no courage. They're cowards. I had a very interesting thought when I one day there, and I was still very, very, very ill, but I was aware of Jim O'Doherty's problems with Google, YouTube.
Yeah.
And I heard about the protest in Barrow Street outside Google, and I thought I should go down and just to say hello to Jim and so to say hello to anybody who was there. I picked a bad day. That was the first day, turned out that the LGBT goons showed up. And I was watching these thugs, like absolute lowlife, screaming and shouting and abuse and foul language, you name it, just horrible people. And I thought to myself, whoa, this is really interesting. What has this got to do with LGBT? What has Jim O'Doherty's quarrel with YouTube got to do with them? Nothing. On the face of it, nothing. Why are they defending the government? Well, now, the next thought I had, these are the blue shirts of the 21st century. They're here to do the dirty work of the government, right? And the government's allies, which includes Google.
Yeah.
Right? And the quid pro quo is that the government will do what they want, which is that the government will arrange to give them our children.
Yeah.
To teach about sexuality, which means their notion of sexuality.
In every sense of the word. Well, just where you get there, John, don't just want to skip through. I mentioned in one of my previous broadcasts about the campaign that's going on, Hands Off Our Kids. And those of you that printed off the leaflet, I've recently received one as well. I left it a PDF link to it. And John, you've had a quick read through it. Yeah. But just so you're aware, for any other parents as well, that there's a website now set up called World Wide Web handsoffourkids.org. And it's to give you the opportunity to present your grievances against what is perceived to be pushed out in the new RSE program, but it's a direct attack on the education system. Is it 89, John, or 98? The 98 Education Act.
Yes, it's the 98. Yes.
98 Act.
Yes. Well, I mean, we'll come back to what we were saying there, Barrow Street.
Sorry to jump off.
But this is really, really important. I really cannot believe that this is happening. I cannot believe it. That 6-7-year-old children will be put in the hands of people who will push filth down their throats.
The parents have to understand that the third-party educators, this won't be the teachers, that the government will engage the NGO classes or the third-party facilitators of this ideology, and they will be placed in the classroom.
Yes. So they'll be taught about LGBTQ
by the professionals.
Yes. There'll be a spectrum they'll be taught that there's a spectrum of gender identities, that boys and girls are passé, so they'll be opened up to the possibility that they will be maybe feel impelled or compelled to think that if they change sex, that it will relieve whatever unease or unhappiness they may feel as human beings.
Let me just explain today as well, and for the parents here. Recently in the United States, in Texas, you can go check it out, that a husband and wife were separated in a divorce proceeding, but the wife was a paediatrician, and she then said that she wanted to have her 7-year-old son to be addressed as a female, that he was transgender, and that the court had ruled that the child was allowed to have blocking hormones to be thing, essentially castrating a 7-year-old boy. The father objected to it, but he was nearly bypassed. But because of the divorce proceedings, the judge split the decision 50-50, so no medical procedures could be carried out.
And what was the basis of this? The basis was that in McDonald's one day, the boy, when he was 4, chose the girls' He got the Happy Meal, and he
That's
chose the girl's toy rather than the boy's toy.
That's right.
And his mother decided from that, because she's an expert apparently, she's a paediatrician, means she's an expert in children.
Yeah.
She decided on that basis that he wanted to be a girl. And that's the sole basis of all this. And a court now has put a gun to the head of the father and told him to shut up or you will lose your child. Like, this is what we're looking at. And we have created the conditions for this already in Ireland, Rowan. And I must remind people again, because we went through this in 2012. And we fought presented to the Irish people as children's rights.
That's right.
This is the culmination of that now.
Absolutely despicable.
This is the culmination now, because what it means, Rowan, is that parents have already given up the right to help their children if they decide to go down that road in all their foolishness or in all their maturity. If they go down that road at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it will be impossible for loving parents to pull them back and save them.
There's no detransitioning from transition.
No,
you can only go one way.
That's right. So this is what I'm talking about, coming back, the quid pro quo. That there'll be also the gender thing. The trans thing is going to become, in my estimation, Rowan, and again, under hate speech in a few months, if this happens, we won't be allowed to say what we're about to say now. The trans thing, which is the T in LGBT, or I'd say Turag is what the T stands for, but let's say it's trans. Trans means the destruction of tens of thousands of children, teenagers, adolescents, going into the future. Unbelievable heartbreak, unbelievable suicides, lives destroyed, children with their bodies absolutely maimed. Mutilated and maimed, and no way back. Why? Because a bunch of thugs have decided to try out their muscle and put out an idea that is utterly crazy, and knowing that they can bully their way to get whatever they want, have decided to push it. There's a book out by Douglas Murray, which I urge people to read.
Yes.
Called The Madness of Crowds.
I've watched it, I bought it myself.
Douglas is a gay man, a wonderful writer, a wonderful thinker, a journalist, that rare breed nowadays. And he looks at LGBT, he looks at feminism, he looks at race, and he looks at trans in particular. And he says that this whole thing, the whole LGBT agenda, this is a gay man saying this, not me. LGBT agenda is an attempt to derange society. To derange society. Now, I believe that firmly. I have said something not that strong. I said some years ago and got into terrible trouble for it. I got attacked for saying that gay marriage was a satire on society. It's a related point. So, now, just one more thing.
Go ahead.
Children should be taught that abortion is reproductive health care. Now, here we come to a very crystallized insight into the whole nature of this, because we're dealing there with an issue which is controversial, to say the very least. It's not settled. The very language is suspect. It's euphemistic. Abortion can, if you can just as easily say, and with as much validity, say abortion is murder.
Mm-hmm.
They have no right to impose on the whole of this society an idea that is not axiomatic, that is not settled on a controversial issue such as this.
I comprehend.
But this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
You see, and then we have, and this is quite bizarre, you know, I mean, I come up from a country where Fine Gael was probably the stupidest, most reactionary right-wing party that you ever met. You wouldn't meet them in the whole, if you walk around the globe, you wouldn't meet stupider, more right-wing, more reactionary people. Knew nothing, but they were no openness whatsoever. Now they have flipped. And now we have a Fine Gael minister saying no element can be omitted on the basis of ethos. In other words, he will decide what the people of Ireland have to endure, what their children will be taught, and they can shut their mouths or they will be guilty of what?
Hate speech.
Hate speech. That's where we're going. Now there's a name for this. There's one word, and it's not an exaggeration when you see this train of thought. It's totalitarian. This is where we are. You know, I was saying the other night to Jim, like that container of people, those awful,
Chinese,
that falling thing, that Chinese people, they were coming to the West to escape from tyranny. Little did they know that in order that they can be accommodated in our society and to achieve the silence of the native people of this society, a tyranny is being introduced here that is very comparable to the one they're leaving behind.
Yeah.
But it will only bear down on us, the natives. They will be immune because they can call in hate speech.
They're the protected classes.
Yeah, because the guards will be just as vulnerable to attack, to criticism on the basis of hate speech as anybody, including maybe even...
And all government institutions, if they're perceived.
Yeah.
If the subjective perception is that this...
I know that, the thing about this is very interesting to me, Rowan, because I blundered into this stuff. Blundered into it. I come from the left.
Yeah.
30 years ago, I was editor of In Dublin magazine, which was the leading LGBT magazine in Ireland. I'm not joking. We were the first magazine to push out the whole gay agenda. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. But we did it. And there was the Hirschfield Centre, and we were like thick as teas with those people.
Well, I don't think even they realised at the time that how it would
No,
march onto this.
And it's very important.
I don't think many gay homosexuals are on board with the whole
they're
LGBT.
not.
They're not.
There's a big difference. As I said, Douglas Murray. I know lots of gay guys and gay women, and they don't want any truck with this stuff.
Yeah.
Not least, some because for the same reasons as us, but some because they know that this is going down a road that will lead to a massive backlash, an unspeakable backlash. Down
those with the rationale and the foresight to think that, not to blindly follow their herd and love and hate and openness without any critical understanding.
But you see, because of the dynamics of their propaganda and the bullying and the cowardice of the officials of the state and and particularly the corruption of the media, they can't believe how successful they've been. Like, it's quite extraordinary.
They've got away with it for so long, until YouTube, until the likes of Gemma, until the likes of
10 years ago in Ireland, the Irish Times was unequivocally stating that gay marriage would be unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Then 5 years later, it was bullying people who said the same thing.
Flipped it over.
Yeah. So you see, they have such a success in this but you see, the problem with that is they're intoxicated now with this success, and they're now reaching the point of overreach. They're overreaching themselves.
It's getting to the stage now where the emperor has no clothes, and it's becoming more and more apparent in the sense that they're. Well, I want to touch back on the Chinese. I get away from the.
Well, I want to come. Yeah, we'll come back to Chinese. I want to go finish the point of somebody, because this is down in Barrow Street, down at Gemma's campaign. These people were trotted out to bully Gemma into silence, to demonise Gemma, to stir up the media, because again the corruption of the media was again laughable in one sense, because on the one hand they had for 4 weeks ignored Gemma's protest, but suddenly when the LGBT goons arrived, it was news. But it was news because they could make it a negative story about Gemma. That these valiant, good-humoured protesters were showing Gemma O'Doherty up for what she was. The public are saying, "Who's Gemma O'Doherty and what's going on down there?"
Draw more attention to her.
Why didn't we hear about this before?
Yeah.
Why are we only hearing now that the response has kicked in? Well, then everybody was down there. All the media were down there. Suddenly, RTE was down there. The National Pravda operation, so we are dealing with extraordinary conditions which are so artificially constructed as to be comparable to the most propagandized regimes that have ever existed. And I mean like regimes like the Soviet regime, the regime in Nazi Germany. From a propaganda point of view, where they're already that sophisticated. But it is absolutely unthinkable when you stand back and think that Fine Gael, the party of the Cosgraves, would be pushing essentially the teaching of masturbation on 6-7-year-old children in Irish schools, and that the people that are responsible for it would be men and women who look relatively normal, who look kind of sane, who look respectable, who don't look like criminals, who don't look like child abusers, but they are. That's what they are. That's what they are. And the Irish people need to wake up real fast if they're to save their children from this filth, because I promise you, once it starts, it will never stop.
It'll never stop. It'll be a death by 1,000 cuts.
It will take a revolution to stop it. I mean a revolution with guns.